Welcome once again, Lightbringers, to our third live stream for Massive Darkness, Dungeons of Shadowreach. Big thank you again for all the support and all of the activity on the campaign page. We've still got a lot of exciting things coming. We're going to reveal not one, but a couple things today that I think will be very interesting for you. Not to mention, there's going to be some things next week as well. So stay tuned for all of that coming very, very soon. But we have quite a bit to cover today. Today I have with me, once again, Marco and Nick. Nick is our producer. Marco is one of the designers. You know these people very, very well. Marco, Nick, thanks for joining again.
Hello, everyone.
Marco pointed out before we started streaming today that there is a storm rolling in where he lives.
Yes.
It might be, spoiler alert, very appropriate for some of the things we need to talk about today. That's all you're going to get from me right now. More on that soon. But if we lose Marco and some others that may be coming with him, you'll know that the storm has rolled in. But we do want to cover off on some of the things that have been going on with the campaign today, but also a couple big announcements. Before we get to the announcements, Nick, if you could help me explain, one of the things that we talked about last time was the French translation pack. Do we have any more details? I know we've announced a little bit more this week, but what can you share with us today, just for those of you who hadn't seen that update?
Yep. So the French language pack will cover actually all the printed components for everything that will be released during this campaign. So any new content in Dungeons of Shadowreach, you will get a French counterpart of it to replace all your components. So some of you have been asking me, will the rulebooks be included? Yes, most certainly the rulebooks are included. They are just not on the banner. We are working to update the banners with all the relevant components as we release more components throughout the campaign.
Yeah, so we appreciate all of the passion of all of our fans all over the world. And we hope you hear that we've been listening and we can do what we can. We always try to do what we can and solve these problems to give you what you're looking for. Sometimes it works out really well. Hopefully you agree that this is one of those cases. Sometimes it's a little bit more challenging. So we appreciate your patience with us as we try to navigate all of that stuff. And again, before we get to the stretch goals, there's one big announcement that I wanted to make before the rest of today, and that is Tabletop Simulator. We actually have a mod on Tabletop Simulator, and I want to spend a little bit of time talking about this. This is something that you'll all be able to get out there and try so that you can firsthand experience. Marco, I believe it's 3 of the scenarios that we have.
Yes, there are 3 scenarios that's been played, and 5 of the classes.
Yeah, 5 of the classes. We do not have a warning. We don't have the Chronomancer because of the real-time aspect. It is a complicated thing to make happen in Tabletop Simulator. We hope you understand that. But all of the other classes are there. And I have to say, as a person who's used Tabletop Simulator in the past quite a bit, the mod that they've built is very, very good. This is a really, really well implemented mod with a lot of things that are done for you. So I trust that even if you don't have a lot of experience using Tabletop Simulator, you can get in there and you can figure this out pretty quickly. The game will set up for you depending on which scenario you want to play. All of the characters are already laid out and all of the components are laid out where they should be. Not to mention, we've got some really slick interface with some of how the characters work in terms of when you're placing cards down. Sometimes Tabletop Simulator can be a little crazy, but we've really put a lot of work into this. So if you've been dying to try it, if you've been looking for gameplay, get in there and look at it yourself. And I wanted to mention one more thing from the last live stream. We talked about showing off some cards. This is one of my favorite things about the game. And we're not going to show you cards today in the live stream, but you can go into Tabletop Simulator and you can look at all the cards that you want as thoroughly as you want. You can zoom in and look at all of the cards that we have there in the mod. So, and there's plenty to look at there too, across all the different treasure types. So get in there. If you have any questions about that, if you've never tried Tabletop Simulator, go ahead and let us know in the comments on the campaign page, and we'll get there and try to walk anyone through it as best we can to try to get you up and running so you can experience the game if you want to. So with that said, we're going to move on to some of the things that have been happening on the campaign in the way of a lot of the stretch goals that we've unlocked. So we've unlocked quite a few. We're not going to cover all of them today, but the first one is going to be the homunculus leader and minions. It's a mouthful to say homunculus, but Marco, what can you tell us about the homunculus, or depending on how many are on the board, the homunculi?
Yeah, so what's great about the homunculi, I mean, I don't know if great is the right word, but it's that, as you can see on the card, the defense value is X, because he always uses the defense of the attacker. So if you are attacking and you have a huge defense, you're going to have to hit the same defense as you have. So he is always getting stronger as you are getting stronger. And the more minions in the mob that there are, they attack more. They get more swords when attacking as well. So it's a really hard mob to come by, you know.
That is a really cool thing. Can you share thematically what was behind the decision of having the defensive die being X? Is this the only mob that's been like that, or have we had others?
Yeah, it's the first one that we had. Is the fact that the homunculi, they are very strong in a group, and they try to mimic your movement. So they are trying to do this exact same thing as you do, you know.
I wasn't sure if it had anything to do with the law of equivalency from another popular franchise. But yes, that is the homunculus. They're nasty little guys. The next one is not a mob. This is one of the hero classes, and then is Jet. This one is cool. I asked this question out of ignorance before we started streaming. I asked Marco, is Jet made out of water? And he said, of course, it's a water elemental.
Yeah, we try to make like different races for the characters this time, not just the usually humanoids, you know. You have like dwarves, gnomes, and orcs, and a water elemental. Why not? You know, it's so cool to have a hero that's made of water. And this is another hero that has two classes, so he can be an assassin and a rogue. You're seeing the assassin card. And the thing about him is that the shadow ability allows him to freeze other enemies, you know. And sometimes you can like avoid the roaming monster or a mob if you freeze them and go around them instead of directly killing them, you know. That's what's cool about him. And as a rogue, there's another mechanic that I really like, is that the rogue has these tokens that are used for movement or for attacking. And he can use the movement tokens for attack. So it's very interesting that you gain the bonus for movement during the attack, you know. For example, if you use a blue token to move, you usually get +1 movement. But it changes to a +1 sword when you're using for attack. That's what's cool about the rogue version of this character.
Are the frost tokens something that's common with our association with water? I remember a lot of the mobs in the Sunken Temple also were throwing frost around. So it's interesting to see that the hero classes can throw it back. So that is Jet. The next thing we want to talk about, back to the bad guys, back to the monsters. This one is, I believe, a roaming monster. It is the Manticore.
Oh, yeah. That's another one that's really cool. I love the miniature, the wings and the horns. And it's one of those monsters where you have to play differently when he's in play, because if there's a hero that's alone in a zone, and he goes directly to that hero and attacks it. So you don't want to be alone when the Manticore is in play. You know, you need to stand together, and of course it's a real challenge when playing solo mode, because you're always alone. So if you want to make the game harder, maybe put the Manticore there. So yeah, I really like this pattern.
Do you and Alex just sit around at night for fun and try to determine how to make the game harder, or?
Yeah, we certainly talked about that.
It certainly feels like it. Every stream, it is a common theme throughout this entire product line. The next one is another hero class, and this one is really interesting. The name is Old Brew, and this is another dual class, but it has some really interesting mechanics as it relates to another hero class, right?
Yes. Yeah, of course, he's a druid on one side, and he's an herbalist on the other side. And as a druid, you can see that he has these animal companions there. So what we did is that when on the herbalist side, at the start of the game, you get one of the hunter's pets skills. So he can actually use components from another class. We did something like that previously. We have a wizard that can use the ranger deck and stuff like that. So the herbalist version of Old Brew also has this, where he starts with a skill that's meant for a pet, for the hunter pet, but he can use that skill. So and you can use it even if the hunter is not in the game. That's something that's interesting as well. So if the hunter is there, use some of the other skills that the hunter didn't select for their pet. But if he's not there, you can use any of the skills from the pets.
Yeah, I think this is always such a big pull for people. Whenever we have these classes that utilize some of the components from other classes, it just blends them all together, and we have so many as it is. A really cool addition. That is Old Brew. And then the last one we have here before sort of the big reveal for the week. This one, I'm surprised we actually have a slide because it's the Invisible Warrior. I know that's a horrible joke. But yeah, the Invisible Warrior, the leader and minion. What can you tell us, Marco, about this?
Okay, so they're invisible, and what they do is that when they activate their ability when on defense, you roll a die and see if they move somewhere else. You don't know exactly where they are because they're always disappearing, appearing again somewhere else. So that's what we try to do there. So and when they defend, they can go everywhere, another space, and you have to follow them there. So he's always moving around.
Yeah, these are really cool. And again, I think I'm guessing we ended on these for the stretch goals that we opened because thematically they give me very similar vibes to what we're about to reveal. So without any further ado, let's give you a look at the next piece of content that we're adding today. So that is the Wicked Hamlet. There's a lot to talk about this with this one. It's got some interesting new mechanics. Marco has not only brought all the goodies for us to see, but he's also brought some more people from the team, people who specifically worked on this. Marco, do you want to make the introductions?
Yeah, we're bringing in Rodrigo Soneso and Felipe Galeno. They're designers and developers from the team, and they worked on the content for this box, so they're here to talk about it.
And they work so closely with one another that they're in one screen on our stream, showing love for each other on this wonderful Valentine's Day. And by the way, I have to pardon me for not wishing all of you a happy Valentine's Day right from the beginning. Thematically, we weren't sure that it fit well with Wicked Hamlet. Wicked Hamlet certainly gives a little bit more Halloween vibes, but happy Valentine's Day to everybody. So we're going to talk a little bit in detail about Wicked Hamlet. But Marco, can you give us a general sense before we really dig into it, what the direction was for this and what we were wanting to do with this particular expansion?
Yeah, so when me and Alex were discussing about the themes, one of the themes was Gothic horror, like this classic vampire and werewolves and this kind of stuff. So we thought, what if we do a campaign box with this team and bring those enemies to the table? You know, it's very interesting. And the overall theme is that there's a village that is being attacked and had these monsters appearing, and you have to investigate what's happening, where these monsters coming from. You know, that's the overall theme of the box.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And as they were explaining it to me, it sounds like it's going to pull a little bit more of a narrative feel and vibe into the game, even if you're not playing the campaign. And it should be said, this can be played like all the rest of them as one-offs or in a campaign mode. But if we can take a look at the tiles, guys, if you can talk a little bit about how some of that narrative will unfold as it relates to the setting that we're seeing here depicted on these tiles, but also some of the things that players will be doing in addition to what they do in a lot of the other scenarios.
Yeah, sure. You can see that there's two types of tiles there. One of more swampy theme, and the other one is castle. During the campaign, you're gonna find that, like Marco said, the city, this village, that was attacked by monsters, and by magic, something transformed and turned into the swamp that you can see there. And throughout the history of the campaign, the heroes can explore the castle of the big bad boss.
It's very cool. And obviously, you could tell from the theme of the trailer, you could tell from some of what they've already talked about, but horror is a big part of this. If we can take a look at the next slide, we can actually see some of the components that are going to be involved with horror. And then there's even a little bit more, but can someone speak to each of these things and how they're used in the game as it relates to how the horror mechanic works overall?
Yeah. So Wicked Hamlet brings the unique new mechanics. You have the fog tokens. The main mechanic is the horror, So the horror is linked to all the mechanics, starting with the fog tokens. Every time a hero passes through a fog token, this hero can become horrified, So you have the horror dice. Every leader can roll this dice, and the horror can be triggered by some effects in the game.
Yeah. Besides that, when you are attacking, defending, the horror die is very present throughout the entire game. So you always gonna roll that and see if the character becomes horrified by something of the monsters that they are seeing.
And I imagine everyone watching right now is saying, but what does horror mean? So if we can take a look at the next slide, things will become a little clearer. These are the horror cards that you're going to have in the game. So those components that we just saw, the fog tokens, those might lead to horror. You're going to be rolling the die and having a chance of being horrified. The tokens you're going to be taking are those tokens, but those are going to be placed on these cards. But can you tell us a little bit more how these work? Because as a fan of some of our other games, I recognize some similarities to some other things that I like from, say, Death May Die.
Yeah, we like that also.
Yeah, a lot.
Like we both like a lot the horror team in general, right? So when we're talking about this mechanic, instantly we thought about the Death May Die as well. And you can see that in the back of the card, there's some slots that the characters gonna roll the horror die and see if they collect more tokens of horror tokens. And you place them on top of the card. And after the card is complete, there's no more available slots. You're gonna flip the card and gonna see what the horror will make for you.
So this is a little like as you mentioned, similar to the Insanity cards a little bit, or at least the same sort of feeling, but with that ever growing nature of like adding more and more horror. Now, I have to ask, are the horror cards always just completely bad? Knowing Marco and the whole team there, I'm sure it's just punishing, right?
Yeah. But you can use them maybe sometimes to take an advantage for you. For example, some card is mandatory to you to move. I don't know, 2 zones. I don't know.
Oh, I see.
Through, in the direction a monster or a mob. So you can use strategy for you, but I don't know, an advantage. Yeah. But it's dangerous.
Yes, it's generally bad, but
Yeah,
obviously
generally bad.
some clever usage and timing might actually benefit the players from time to time. That's what I'm
Yeah.
hearing.
Indeed.
Very cool. The next slide is the campaign. Now, like I said earlier, all of these expansions you can play these things as one-off scenarios. There's a campaign mode. I do want to talk a little bit more about this one in particular, because this campaign includes some things that I don't think we've had in any other campaign to date, as it relates to that narrative that we were talking about.
Yeah, all the missions in this box have the main characters of or a rescue mission or exploration mission. You know, so you have some characters lost around the board, or around the village, or around the swamp, whatever, and you eventually mm, can or have to rescue these people or this lovely dog. You know.
Yeah, we have some special characters that you can find during the quest, and you're gonna draw the campaign card specifically for the character, and they're gonna change a little bit the mission from the one shot and the campaign.
Yeah, that is really, really cool.
Yeah, you never know where these characters are lost in the board. You know.
Oh, so it varies from play to play?
Yeah, there are some tokens. There are with the same back that you shuffle around, and you find the characters.
Ah,
So
yeah.
you never know where they are. You have to explore and find them.
I gotta say, Marco, and I know I've told you this, but for everyone here, this is probably my favorite new addition. I love the extra flavor being injected into this. So I hope this is just the tip of the iceberg for this sort of addition of narrative to these scenarios. The next thing that we want to talk about are the enemies, though. So did anyone, before we get to any of the mobs, want to say anything else? Marco, the team, do you want to talk about anything related to the campaign or the scenario overall?
Yeah, I think we're having technical problems with them, like probably because of the storm. But yeah, we can.
The horror has taken them.
Yeah, the horror.
But Marco,
yeah,
did you want to jump
right?
into the enemies? Yeah.
We can play the campaign or the one shot. They both have this exploration feeling, but when playing the campaign, you have these campaign cards with the special characters and stuff that make it even more interesting. That's it about the campaign versus one shot missions.
So let's take a look at some of the bad guys. You saw very, very quick snips of these in the trailer, but you probably couldn't really appreciate them. So let's take a look at the first one right now, and you can tell us a little bit about the ghost skulls. For eagle-eyed viewers, they were floating around in one of the houses in the trailer for a brief second.
Yeah, so I love them. I like this mob. A lot of schools going around. The leader has like 5 schools. It's very interesting miniature and very thematic. And when it attacks or defends, it can give you extra wounds. It's like it's always a menace, you know, because usually you only take wounds because of the retaliate icon, and with the ghost skills you can take a wound even because of the monster icon as well. And just a reminder that for every monster, every enemy, you roll the horror die alongside the other dice, so you are always getting horror from these monsters because of the horror die.
Yeah. So it's not just the fog.
Oh,
yeah, not just the fog. All the monsters also roll the horror die when attacking or defending.
And the fog is cleared, and they're back.
Yeah, guys, the foggy took us.
We promise, guys, we did not talk badly about you behind your backs while you were gone. We're happy that you're back. Marco was just talking about the ghost skulls, but next we are moving on to the revenants. So please share what you'd like to about the revenants. These are some awesome looking miniatures, in my opinion.
Yeah, the revenants are this creature that hunts everything down, right? So you can see that they attack the attack they make can really hurt you.
Yeah, -1. I never like seeing -1 shield unless it's on one of my components. I don't like seeing that on the enemy cards at all. Nicholas, do you have any of these miniatures handy?
Yep, let me grab them.
Oh, I spoke too soon.
There we go. The Revenants are here.
Yeah, they're really cool. Again, I was just doing this so Nicholas could feel really special again about having all the miniatures while the rest of us don't have them. I did get some, if you can see in the background. I do have a box full of some of the components, but not like Nicholas has. Nicholas has all the goodies in this one. Next from the Revenants, though, we have the Lich. Who wants to talk about the Lich? This is a roaming monster, of course, so it's got a little bit more going on.
Okay. The Lich is like the general, right? He's a puppet master in kind that he enhances the monsters on the board. So it's not directly dealing damage to the heroes, but it's gonna be a real pain.
He'll be a real pain if there's a lot of other mobs on the board. But if there's no mobs on the board, sounds like a pushover, right?
Yeah, he can spam new monsters, so he's never alone.
You designers, you think of everything. You never make it easy.
That's our job.
I know. Again, these miniatures, and we will try to have, I know we haven't had nice, really rotating miniatures here, but if you can take another look at Nick's miniatures. Nick, is there a miniature that you don't have for this game? I feel like he must have all of them.
Nearly all of them, just short a few.
Now, and we have to tell Nick beforehand not to show all the miniatures. He had some miniatures that still haven't been revealed. They're, just to tease you all, they're sitting there in his room just off camera. I've seen them, but we have to make sure Nick doesn't get carried away and show those as well. The next one we want to talk about is a roaming monster, maybe more. We'll get to that in a second. But this is the Vampire Lord, and this is the roaming monster version of the Vampire Lord.
Yeah, this is the bad guy in this box. It's a big vampire, and they're a little surprised because this guy can
he can disappear. Yeah, he can go to the shadows and appear in another place. He's very mobile.
Yeah,
Is also he can leech the life out of the characters and become healed again.
Wow. And that's just the roaming monster version of him, right?
Yeah. The roaming monster.
Oh, yeah. Nick has that one too. Nick, I think Nick has all of the miniatures from this box. The next one we want to talk about is another roaming monster. And this one is, I believe, yeah, look at the, looks amazing. The next one, though, is the Lich, I believe.
I think the Witch.
The Witch.
The
Witch.
Yeah.
I was close. Lich, Witch. We already talked about the Lich. This is the Witch. And by the way, not as maybe traditionally scary a miniature on this one, but I love this miniature because of the detail, the birds on her arms and shoulder. It's really, really cool. Who wants to tell us about the Witch?
Yeah, I can go ahead. She's also more in a how can I say this? She is really annoying as well. She does not do a lot of damage directly, but she's really hard to catch up because she's gonna run through the heroes and then she's gonna run from the heroes. It's like a guerrilla type.
Yeah, that also just the artwork. Again, I know I haven't been here at CMON long, and I know I sound like a fanboy, but it is because I am. The artwork too, not to mention the miniature, bringing the artwork pretty much straight up to life is always really cool.
One of my favorite. It's one of my favorite miniatures as well.
Yeah, the miniature is great, and that art is amazing. Like this is the detail in the face is fantastic. All right, the time has come to talk about the big bad. And you'll see it here, but we'll talk to you a little bit about its connection to the Vampire Lord. Let's take a look at the boss. This is the Dire Lycan. But tell us, because it doesn't necessarily start out as the Dire Lycan, right?
Yeah. This is a two-stage boss. This boss is the Vampire Lord. So Vampire Lord becomes the Dire Lycan. So this guy is tough, man. It's tough. If you are looking for difficult, you have in this box.
Yeah,
Oh, boy.
and both of the different versions, like the vampire version, the Lycan version of the boss, we try to make something really different between those two, but within a team. Like the vampire can be more directly hurting you through the horror, and the Lycan will be really damage type of boss.
Just hurting you. Lycan doesn't need horror. He just has himself.
For the first time in Massive Darkness, you change the miniature,
You start with the vampire.
Yeah, you start with
And
vampire.
after
and then,
defeating the vampire, the music started becoming louder and darker.
Look
and
at
then
that.
There it is, the Dire Lycan.
and maybe the vampire becomes vampire again. I don't know.
I don't know. I think you do know. I think you may have just given a little bit of hint to everybody, but I love it. And I have to say, I'm not a big painter myself. I have dabbled, but I cannot wait to see what people do with some of these miniatures. Not just this Lycan, but also Back to That Witch. I can't wait to see what some of the big painters out there in the community do with these things. That is pretty amazing. So you heard it. This is the Wicked Hamlet. It's all about horror. It sounds like we're going to be getting horror all throughout. It's not just the fog. It's interacting with all of these mobs and whatnot. So it should be a pretty exciting and totally new experience for Massive Darkness. And as you know, if you couldn't tell, the whole theme of Dungeons of Shadowreach, we started with the Underspire. We went on to Sunken Temple. Now we're at the Wicked Hamlet. You see some similarities to some other very powerful tabletop themes here. But that is our live stream for today. We do want to take a moment here, a few moments, to field a couple comments that we've seen throughout the stream. So please keep commenting if you have any questions you want to ask us right now. We'll spend a little bit of time to try to answer your questions.
Ooh, Ellerin says, is this a crowdfunding exclusive? No, this is not a crowdfunding exclusive. I also saw an earlier comment talking about the horror die being in the clear dice pack. Don't worry, we got you covered. So right after this live stream, we will actually be adding it to the Underspire dice set. So
Nice.
when you get that, you get every single dice in this campaign in clear.
Very cool.
And
I see
also,
another.
There's a question
ahead.
about the Zombicide crossover pack, and we are also adding some of those monsters in the crossover pack for sure. Even the fog mechanic, the fog tiles, they're going to be in the crossover as well.
Nice. Yeah, we're seeing a few different questions here. I don't know if we weren't clear on this. Someone asked, the Vampire Lord is not a boss? It is a boss, right? We just didn't show that side of the card, right?
It's a boss, but works also works as a random monster.
Yeah, he's both.
Yeah, the Vampire Lord is not content just battling you at the end. He wants to haunt you throughout the entire situation. We have some other questions here. Oh, here's one. And I don't know if we want to spoil this, but someone said, tell us more about the dog. I have a suspicion that dog is going to be potentially a fan favorite, at least for this expansion. I'm not saying it's going to become like a CMON mascot or anything like that, but can you guys share a little bit more about the dog without spoiling anything?
Yes. Yeah, he's
Maybe
a sniffer.
What's that?
He's gonna help you find things.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a hunting dog,
Yeah. I love it. Anything else in terms of some of the characters that we saw on that screen? Do you think it'll always be filled with surprises? how many characters will there be? Like, will you see all the characters in any given play session, or just some of them?
We have I think 5 or 6
Five or six,
characters. I don't think you're gonna see all in one at
Okay.
once, but they are present throughout the entire history.
And this is something we also, I don't think, covered. It's sort of the stats of the box. How many scenarios are in this box?
4 scenarios.
4 scenarios.
Yeah.
So all culminating in the one boss scenario with the
Yeah.
Lycand. And very cool. I think that is all the questions we're seeing. If there's some questions, we can wait a little bit more to see if any more come in. We will have some details. I see some questions here asking about things like legacy content. To whatever degree we solidify any more of that, we will share that. Obviously, we are coming into the final week of the campaign here. There are more surprises to come. As you know, if you followed any of our campaigns, you're going to be seeing some things from here all the way until we ultimately announce the all-in. But there is more content coming, as well as maybe some more details as it relates to some of the questions that have been being asked. And I see tons of questions now pouring in. Well, here's not a question, but I want to share this with the team here. Best team ever. Thank you. A round of applause to you guys on this team. It's really, really nice.
For us, it's a big honor to share this design with Marco and Alex. It's a big honor.
Yeah, I have to say, again, and I know I'm the marketing guy at CMON, but if I can take that hat off for a second and tell you, just as a fanboy who's just not been here very recently, I love these games just like you guys do out there. And when you see firsthand the passion and the love that everyone has that are working on the games, I mean, they love the games just as much as you do. And they're still getting as excited about designing this, even though this is sort of our 3rd release in Massive Darkness, let alone our other campaigns. But they're all always very excited about all the little things they're doing in this. Even when, Marco's showing me stuff for the first time, I can tell he's really anticipating, just like we all are, your reaction to when we share these things out here. So it really means a lot to us to hear things like that. So we really appreciate that. I know the team, it means a lot to them as well. Boy, we're getting a lot of questions now towards the end here. Oh, here's one that I probably know the answer to. When is Marco getting his own hero? Marco's too humble for that. You can tell he's not even commenting right now because he doesn't want to comment on that.
Because Marco is already our hero,
Oh, that was the answer. I should have thought of that. That was the good answer. Well, there are a ton of questions coming in. We will take a look at these and try to go over into the comments and answer any of the ones that we don't answer right now. Just want to give you guys another thank you for joining us on the live stream today, for following, for backing, for being a part of the campaign. We're nearly to the finish line, just about a week left to go. So get in there, check out all the things that we've got going on in the campaign. And like I said, we will jump into the comments and try to field anything that you asked here that we may not have answered and any other questions that you have. So until next time, we will see you at the campaign page.